Hey guys, gals, and MBs. So we're just going to have some fun with the Novation Summit today. Nothing too in particular, like just structured, but I want to go over one of the things you can do with it, and that is use it as a lo-fi, almost like a Furpatronic style looper. You need to have the latest firmware. This works on both the Peak and the Summit. I'm going to be using the Summit here. Some of the functionality will be slightly different. I mean, it'll sound identical, but we're going to use the aux outputs. I'm only using the aux outputs right now. So if you make an init patch, what you'll hear is absolutely nothing. If you have everything set to default, which we do in this case. But what you're going to want to do is go over to the settings screen, and on the Peak this is different. You turn off the entire dry through and you only let the wet through for that one. I don't remember how to exactly do it, but we'll just do it on the Summit. You can figure it out. You'll see what I mean. All right, so we want to go to the page where we have the different outputs. It's like page 13 here, as you can see there. You have FXA out, FXB out. What you do there is we're going to send them both over to aux. You still won't get anything. But now if we go into the FX menu, we go down here to routing, and now we're going to set it to go from chorus, delay, reverb, and you'll get this. So the major issue, and this has not been fixed in firmwares, and I don't understand why. In series routing, what happens is the wet signal is mixed again in with a secondary wet signal, so you get aliasing, and it doesn't sound particularly good. But in this case, we just obviously that is a dry signal in with everything. So now the like the delay control and the chorus control and the reverb control become like proper mix controls. They're not just added into the signal. If I turn the reverb all the way up, you will get no dry signal. So that's what we want, because at 50-50, we'll get dry and wet mixed and no weird aliasing in the signal. Play around with it, you'll see what I mean. But yeah, for this, we're going to be doing that. All right, so now we have a sawtooth in the default in the init. We're just using an init. We can do that again. Obviously, now we have to go back to the FX and set it back to over to we're going to do it chorus, delay, and reverb. All right, so there we go. That is how we set it up. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a kind of a cool sounding patch. We're going to use a little bit of FM and some wavetables. So let's just go to the first oscillator, turn it into, oops, I want to go over here. I want to turn that into a wavetable. I'm going to use octaves. I like that one. And if I go over here to the shape, and if I control the shape of it, you can, and we have it set to LFO 1 by here. If I manually change the shape, that's what it sounds like. And we'll go to LFO 1. We'll make it sweep. Let's do a negative sweep on that, about like there. And let's go over here to LFO 1 and change the rate so it's nice and slow. And if you can hear that, that is a sine wave. At least to me, it sounds like a sine wave, so the filter isn't going to really do too much onto that. It's just going to kind of make it quieter. It won't be as exciting. But we can use FM, one of the cool functions of this synth. So we're going to do that. We're going to go to our third oscillator here, and we're going to switch it to a sine wave, right? And we're going to change the coarse tuning. I'm going to change the coarse tuning of the first oscillator to +4. And I'm also going to change the coarse tuning. You can do whatever. This is just an interval to sound kind of interesting. So we're going to change the the third oscillator to be +4 too. You won't hear anything, but what we can do now is we can use the FM control here. This is hidden in a menu on the Peak versus it being on the main controls of the Summit. So this takes oscillator 3 and FMs it into oscillator 1. So as you can hear, there's your classic FM sounds. Very Genesis-esque, isn't it? And if we change the interval here, we're going to change the full octave interval. So let's change oscillator 1 to 16 foot, and let's change oscillator 3 to 4 foot. You can hear the difference. Actually, I like 2 feet. Now let's go back to 4. And if we add some fine detuning, it makes it even more evident, the FM, I mean. All right, really nice. I like that. All right, now that gives our filter something to bite down on versus just sine, where we have no other harmonics in the signal to filter out. So let's go ahead and turn off key tracking, because by default there's key tracking on the init patch. And let's turn our filter all the way down, and let's change it to a 12 dB. Let's add some envelope depth to that. Let's add some amp release, and let's add some mod release. The mod 1 by default is what your envelope depth controls on your filter. We can add a little bit of resonance in that. Let's add about half resonance, so it's about 64 or 60. That way if we do a slow attack, watch this. Maybe a little less resonance. All right, let's go no attack to hear what it sounds like as a pluck patch, because we're going to swap between the two. You'll see what I mean. Let's add some sustain there to the mod envelope. I think that sounds absolutely gorgeous. It's really cool sounding. All right, now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and go to the delay section. I'm going to turn the feedback all the way down so we can hear what this sounds like, because otherwise it's going to decay very slowly. We'll change the feedback control later, but let's bring up the delay. Let's bring it up to about 64, which should be a 50-50 mix. But there's no feedback, so it won't repeat. So if we turn up the delay time all the way, that's really not long enough for Fripatronics or any kind of looping, right? But what we can do, I mean, I guess we could turn the feedback way up and then just let it loop a small section. But if you have the latest firmware on the Summit and the Peak, you have a lo-fi delay that can go on, I think it's 6 times the original level. So let's go into the FX section here. You see we're in the FX section. We want to go over to the delay section. Let's go ahead and change the left and right ratio first, because we're going to make this ping pong too. Let's change that to 4/3. Again, we don't have any feedback, but you can get the depth now that we're getting. Now what's happening is the delay is going into the reverb because of how we have set the effects, so that's going to make for really lovely soundscapes in a minute. Go to the next page, change the output to post damp. We're going to use the dampening control because we're going to use it as a filter. So by default, the repeat is about the same quality as what's being put into it. I mean, that's going to change when we change the speed, but let's go over here to the delay dampening. Let's turn that down to, I like to go in the 30s. Let's just go to 35, 36. It'll be darker, listen. It's actually quite, it's quite subtle. So let's bring up the feedback. But it's decaying pretty fast and nicely, I guess is how you would put that. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to go into time mode, right? We're going to go into time mode and we're going to turn it all the way to hex hex lofi. So that'd be 6 times. And now this is going to take forever to come back. I'm going to turn the feedback down because it's going to keep repeating too long. Yeah, the delay's on. There you go. It's very aliased. It's very crushed. But yeah, so there we go. We have our long looper. It'll come back. One repeat though. And you can play with the dampening. We're going to bring it down even more. Let's bring it down into the 20s. Here it's coming back. Come on. Anytime today. Now, if I turn up the dampening there, you won't get any filtering and it'll sound very aliased. Wait for it to come back around. Takes forever, obviously. We're about 6 seconds because it's very crunchy, right? All right, so let's bring that down. Let's bring it down. Let's just bring it into 20. All right, and let's bring the feedback up. We're gonna bring the feedback quite the ways up, so about 100, right? All right, let's just get started with this and have some fun. And there we go. We have our lo-fi Repertronic style looping. It'll degrade as it goes on. And now we can change our mod envelope here to make it like a slow attack pad. Like we can bring in like this. Alright, we're not done yet. We can have even more fun because we're going to bring in one of the best sounding reverbs in existence. Also, for some reason, we're not in ping pong anymore. Well, that's interesting. Oh, we got to go into type. I'm so not good at that. Let's go back into type and change it into crossfeed. There we go. Now we have a ping pong there. It's going to sound even better. Wow, go me, right? All right. So let's go ahead and change the size of the reverb and let's make it pretty long and let's start bringing it in. Play with the envelope depth a little, make it a little less. Give you a longer decay there. We could have a little bit more fun with the reverb as well. So if you go into the FX section, which we were already in, we go over to the reverb. We can add a little bit more mod rate. The mod depth at 64 is fine, but you change up that mod rate to about 25. Adding some more sustain to the mod envelope. We could also bring in the ensemble, which sounds really good. Switch to the ensemble mode. Yeah. You can have fun for days with that. It's just gorgeous. Now you have this long loop that you can play over. Like, we could do this now. As you can hear. And it degrades slowly over time, and it sounds just really gorgeous, doesn't it? And of course your feedback control and your dampening in the delay section will change that. I mean, we could change let's go back to delay. Let's turn that all the way down. It works in the opposite that you think it does. See how quickly that fades out now? We can listen to that with this pluck sound. I didn't change the feedback, but listen to it come back. See how dull it is? But now if I change it back up, see? Yeah, so let's do that. It almost acts as a low pass filter. I think that's actually what it means. A low pass dampening, right? So let's turn it to 15. Let's turn up the feedback even more. Get it going in there in that buffer and it just sounds gorgeous. Alright. Yeah, so that's basically it. We'll turn down the feedback so it fades out for my final thoughts. But yeah, gorgeous, right? I mean, I love the Summit. I love the Peak. The only problem right now is the pricing because of tariffs, at least in the United States, is really awful. This has turned into like it'd be a $3,000 synth now after tax and everything in most states, unless you get it on a tax holiday or something like that. I think it's like $28.99, something insane like that, when it was at one point as low as like $18.99 for the Summit. Well, I don't remember. I think I got it for like $19.99, something along those lines. Totally shipped out the door. And yeah, now it's just insanely expensive, as goes the Peak. The Peak is like $18.99 now. You can check the prices at the time of recording. What is it? It's May 24th, 2025. Yeah. I mean, I bitch about it all the time, but the dipshits that elect a certain orange shit stain, they've ruined it for everybody. I mean, they've ruined the ability for the budget musician to have nice equipment. It's just going to keep getting worse. So hopefully it doesn't, but it has. It's kind of unfortunate, but you can find these used still. They're kind of drying up. I looked on Reverb because I kind of wanted to give my thoughts, because people keep asking, do I like the Summit or do I like the poly brute, or do I like the multi-poly? At this point, just get a damn multi-poly. I know I had somebody just chime in recently. It's like, well, it's not analog, and if you use it in a certain situation, you'll hear it, and it'll fatigue your ears. I'm mocking them, because that's exactly what I heard when I said that. But look, you know what? The multi-poly is fairly inexpensive for a hardware synth, and you can get the VST for fairly cheap too, or just stick with VSTs. It's just really getting depressing at this point, looking at the pricing of hardware synths and what you can do. I would recommend a Peak, though. I mean, if you can find one of those used, they're still going for about $1,000, $1,200. They haven't dried up completely on the used market. Sometimes you can get them at Guitar Center in your local areas for fairly cheap. I saw one sell for $8.99 just a few weeks ago, which was actually quite impressive. I don't know what was wrong with it. It probably smelled like piss or something. You never know with Guitar Center stuff. They never really check anything. But and it probably had some major issues. But, just look around. At least they have a return policy, check it out for a few days, return it if it's disgusting, kind of deal. But yeah, I'm just kind of rambling about that is because it's getting kind of depressing looking at the synth market. And there's going to be European tariffs coming up pretty soon, because I was going to say recommend the Dread box, the Artemis that's coming out. I really want to try one of those. It's a little out of my price range right now, unless I look at selling some equipment I'm not going to use. But I don't think the RE202 is really going to sell for much money, so not sure on that one. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like this video and you like my content, and you're not watching me yet or following me, go ahead and give me a subscription, or subscribe to my channel. Sorry. It's free, so click that button. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And I guess I'll see you next time, where I will probably bring out some new equipment. I did end up getting an SP404 Mark II. I had one briefly when they first came out, but I got an open box one, and I sent it back pretty much right away because I wasn't going to pay full price for an SP404 Mark II that was fondled by somebody. So I'm just like that. Longtime viewers will know how picky I am about things like that. But now I have a new one that hasn't been fondled, and I'm going to make videos on the looper section and how I use it instead of a Mood. I was going to get a Chase Bliss Mood Mark II again because I really liked it as a little micro looper, but the SP404 with the new looping functionality is so infinitely more versatile, and the effects sound actually really good, especially the lo-fi effects. So we'll do a video with that along with the multi-poly. We'll bring that out, so that'll be fun. Anyway, thanks for watching again. I'll see you next time. Bye.